Ukraine has fulfilled all the necessary steps to open the first cluster
as we know it.
Infrastructure, killing and terrorizing Ukrainian men, women, and children. This has to end. It therefore remains our political duty to increase pressure on Russia in order to change President Putin's calculus and bring him to the negotiating table. And may I be frank from this place as well. We are preparing package number 18 within the European Union of sanctions against Russia. There is only one member state missing to agree on that. I urgently ask Slovakia and its Prime Minister to give up the resistance and to make the way free for package number 18 within the European Union. So let me end by reassuring you, Volodymyr, again, and our Ukrainian friends, that our support for your country is unwavering. Thanks to the Italian government and to you, Georgia, for hosting this important conference. Thanks to all of you for standing with Ukraine. In finalizing, I have two messages. The one goes to Moscow and to President Putin. The message is quite simple. We will not give up. And dear friends, my second message goes to Washington, D.C. and to President Donald Trump. Stay with us and stay with the Europeans. We are on the same page. And we are looking for a stable political order in this world. We are both, the Americans and the Europeans, are part of with us. Stay with us on this side and on this page of our common history. Many thanks, dear colleagues and friends.
We are pleased to invite His Excellency Donald Tusk, Prime Minister of Poland.
Dear Presidents and Prime Ministers, dear Georgia, dear Volodymyr and Olena, dear friends of Ukraine, there will be no recovery without victory. We are meeting here today to discuss how to help Ukraine not only to survive, but to win and to rise again. Not only in material terms, but also spiritually and socially. Ukraine's victory is a matter of security for the whole of Europe. And victory means territorial integrity, sovereignty, and, to put it simply, a just and lasting peace. Victory of Ukraine is not against other countries. It's a victory of our values and our common security. Recovery is more than just about rebuilding walls. It means returning to normal life. Recovery is a set of parallel processes: physical reconstruction, European integration and modernization, all of them taking place together and at the same time. I deeply believe that we all now understand that this is not a war just about Ukraine. This is a war about Europe and for Europe, or perhaps even about the world and for the world as we know it. Because fault lines are appearing across the whole globe. This is a war between civilization and barbarism. My country, Poland, has already done a lot for Ukraine. The Polish society was mobilized from the very first moments of Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. This is not the time to list everything we did, but I think it's enough to mention one figure: 25 billion euros. This is what Poland has already spent in response to Russia's aggression in humanitarian aid, refugee support, and military assistance. Poland will play a special role in the recovery process. My government has developed a coherent model of support. First, investment in our infrastructure, roads, railways, and logistics, which mainly serves to help Ukraine. Second, connectivity. The Polish corridors through which 90% of military and humanitarian aid is currently flowing to Ukraine. The same routes will carry goods for the reconstruction tomorrow. Third, trade. Today, 30% of EU exports to Ukraine is coming from Poland. 30%. And trade leads to investment. Polish and Ukrainian businesses are already benefiting from the special insurance and financing instruments that have drawn a huge interest from our partners. Transport, trade, investment. This is the triangle we are building on. Because rebuilding Ukraine also means connecting it to Europe. This is the deeper meaning of connectivity. We are laying the foundation for Ukraine's future EU membership. From the perspective of Poland and many Central European states, a free and sovereign Ukraine means a more secure European Union. But Ukraine is not only a country in need. It is also a country that inspires, that teaches us courage, yes, resilience, certainly, but also innovation, the kind of technology that is already changing the battlefield: drones, autonomous systems, cyber defense. Ukraine is testing all of them already today. And NATO is learning from Ukraine and must do so even more in order to strengthen its deterrence. Poland is ready and willing to cooperate in this field, because what Ukraine is learning today may save us all tomorrow. This is why I must stress, we are at a defining moment, now, today. What we are doing now will determine where we stand 1 year from now. Will the guns pointed at Ukraine fall silent by the time we meet again during the next recovery conference? And so, from Rome, one of the cradles of our civilization, I appeal to the entire democratic world. Our consciences cannot rest while Putin attacks civilians night after night. Ending this war must be our common cause. Now is the time to begin a new chapter, the chapter of Ukraine's recovery in peace. Thank you.
We are now honored to hear a special address by Her Excellency Olena Zelenska, First Lady of Ukraine.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor to participate here today. So, dear attendees, esteemed heads of government, I would like to thank, first of all, the Italian government and Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni for organizing this and hosting this year conference here in Italy. Thank you for your genuine concern and for your commitment, because today we're discussing not only the fate of Ukraine, but the fate of the entire region. I want to tell something about the destruction, because destruction is not only a physical concept, it is also a social one, manifesting as a hardship, security threats, and mental distress. It can spread far beyond the battlefield and affect everyone. And it already has. For all these recent months, precisely as long as Russia has been stalling negotiations, the aggressor has been shelling Ukraine with particular cruelty night after night. And last night, unfortunately, was no exception. In June alone, can you imagine? In June alone, Russia launched more than 330 missiles, alongside nearly 80 ballistic ones, over 5,000 combat drones, and 5,000 aerial bombs at Ukrainian cities. The scale of destruction is difficult to describe. Yet those among our international partners who recently visited Kyiv and saw apartment buildings shattered by ballistic strikes say that they have never seen anything like this. A gaping void where floors once stood, where people once lived. In 2 residential buildings in the capital destroyed this June, more than 30 lives were lost. And nothing will bring back these people, these parents, these children, these families, their unique lives taken by the aggressor. Today I want to emphasize this above all else. What matters most in rebuilding any country is its people. Buildings without people, enterprises without people, a country without people, that is not a country, it's a memorial. In Ukraine, we have learned this through pain, and we would not wish such suffering on anyone. And so, amid fierce defense, we have made saving lives our top priority, in every sense, physical, social, and mental. Our principle is restore the individual, and they will restore everything else, only in that order. Thank you. Today, our experts will share the details of how this principle is being implemented across the recovery agenda. Allow me to briefly highlight a few areas in which I'm personally involved. Mental health recovery. When a building is destroyed, what remains is not only rubble and graves. There are also hundreds of people living grief. Relatives, friends, and many, many more living in anxiety and fear, knowing they could be next. According to the latest sociological studies, more than 80% of Ukrainians are living in a chronic state of stress and emotional strain. We have many internet memes about this, sad ones, of course. The kind where after yet another shelling, people write in work chats, survived, so I'm going to go to work today. Our economy continues to function thanks to millions of people who go to work after spending their nights in basements. But in those moments, the main emotions they carry are fatigue, tension, and despair. Already in the first months of the Russian invasion, Ukraine responded to this challenge with the All-Ukrainian Mental Health Program, How Are You?, which I patronize. It is a full support system in which all ministers, regions, and communities are involved and work in coordination. It is a network of services where various mental health service providers know about one another, because only in this way can a person avoid getting lost in their search for help. The key principle, mental health in all sectors and all policies, is now enshrined in law, signaling that change is irreversible. Right now, it is critically important for Ukraine not to lose momentum and to continue backing changes in state policies in this area. Much effort is also being directed towards scaling up to ensure that mental health services reach every community, and this requires support from partners. The key actor in this field is the Coordination Center of Mental Health under the Cabinet of the Ministers of Ukraine. Its representatives are part of the Ukrainian delegation here, and they are ready to respond to any of your requests and questions. When people arrive at hospitals after another Russian strike, they suffer severe injuries, blast wounds, burns, crushed limbs. Saving their lives alone is not enough. We must help them live fully again. Therefore, today, we have 11,000 rehabilitation specialists working across the country, 7 times more than in 2022. In just the last year and a half, they have helped 600,000 Ukrainians. This is also the result of state policy. Our specialists have the opportunity to learn from colleagues in the world's best clinics, for which we are deeply grateful to those clinics and to your countries. But our own expertise has also grown to the point where we can share it. For this purpose, Ukraine has launched a medical partnership that directs international cooperation between medical institutions. I invite you to join and thank those who have already become part of it. Education. You may have seen the headlines. Ukraine now has fully functioning underground schools. It's true. We have already built 15 underground schools out of 200 planned. Russia deliberately targets our educational institutions, having already destroyed 394 facilities and damaged over 3,500. I want to especially thank every international partner who helps us provide education to children and welcome the International Alliance supporting the transformation of early childhood education in Ukraine, First Steps Forward, which will be established on the sidelines of the URC today. In the early months of our defense, when Ukraine made the important decision to preserve education for our children, we also made another crucial choice: to continue the school nutrition reform. We are probably the only country implementing such a reform during wartime. But precisely in times like this, a quality school lunch becomes more than just a meal. It is also an expression of care, a form of social protection, and a support for the entire family. I have the honor of patronizing this project, a project about more than just food, about dignity and opportunities. The reform team has already modernized over 1,000 school kitchens, and more than 6,000 school cooks have been trained to prepare meals according to updated health standards. Every day, more than 1.5 million Ukrainian children receive free hot meals at school. Our healthy eating campaign has reached over 7 million Ukrainians because we believe that by cultivating healthy habits from childhood, we shape a healthy nation. Our goal is that by 2027, every child has daily access to high-quality, healthy food. To achieve this, Ukraine still needs 6,000 modernized kitchen facilities and 12,000 trained cooks. I invite you, all those who feel connected to this, to join us. And I also invite everyone to literally taste the reform. For the second year in a row, we present in a school meal show kitchen here at the URC. You're welcome. Barrier-free Ukraine is another humanitarian reform that Ukraine is carrying out under fire. I initiated it 5 years ago, but it has become especially relevant at this moment. It concerns everyone, the wounded, the disabled, the elderly, children, caregivers, and those suffering psychological trauma, because it is about equality, in mobility, in opportunity, even in communication. Over these years, we have introduced European standards of accessibility in construction and digital space. Each ministry leads flagship projects to enhance access to education, work, and mobility. You will hear more about this in detail today. But I want to say, war is not just a slowdown. It pushes up backward. It is always regression. So we need to defend not only against attack, but also to hold back regression. As Lewis Carroll said, it takes all the running you can do to stay the same place. Literally, even new strike increases the need for inclusive services. That is why we value your help so much. Thank you. Our special expectations today is the signing of Ukraine's associated memberships in the ESF+. The gender panel at the, access to this EU structural fund will allow us to create new initiatives for education and employment and to update labor legislation. Now, with your support, we are taking a step toward a social Europe where people, their rights, security, and well-being are at the center. Gender equality. This panel will address the issue of women as their rights and needs present a distinct challenge. Today in Ukraine, 2/3 of women with young children cannot return to work due to the current state of childcare infrastructure. At the same time, women are entering fields once dominated by men in manufacturing, logistics, and the military. Most of our social workers and entrepreneurs are women. They represent a powerful, active force that needs the right conditions to thrive. The gender panel at the URC will showcase real examples of how women, including veterans, entrepreneurs, and local leaders, are already leading recovery efforts. It is crucial that the Alliance of Countries and Organizations for Gender-Responsive and Inclusive Recovery continues to support them and helps make their efforts visible, influential, and effective. Equal opportunities, education, mental health, rehabilitation, and fulfilling childhood. All these topics I have just mentioned are also at the heart of the Olena Zelenska Foundation's work. This is another way to help Ukraine recover on a human level by supporting real people, and in our case, especially children. I'll be glad to meet with you at our stand here and share more details. Italian politician Alcide De Gasperi, who once stood against fascism, said that the future is built by the hands of those who are free from hesitation. Ukrainians facing constant threats to their lives simply have no time for hesitation. We set aside all hesitation until peaceful times. And now we act. This, by the way, is one of the mental practices that helps us to hold on. We must act, even when scared, even when it's dangerous, seeing other people, their needs, and helping them. This is the best way to get distracted from fears and anxiety, tested by Ukraine. So I ask you, in all your important and valuable projects, to put people first, those who will work with it, use it, and live with it. Just as our computer browser asks us to verify that we are not robots, we must ask ourselves, is what we do humane? I'm confident that if everyone follows the rule, people first, the world will become a better place for each of us, no matter which country we live in. Thank you.
We thank Madam Zelenskyy. Now the first plenary session is over. Please remain seated. In a few minutes, the second session will start.
Maybe we can go this way then.
And Prime Minister Meloni for organizing this conference to show that we remain united in our determination. And thank you, Prime Minister Tusk, for hosting the next conference in 2026. We hope that by then this nightmare will be over. Spain's support has been solid and continued. Since February 2022, we have committed military support worth close to 3 billion euros. We have allocated 110 million euros in humanitarian action, from building safe havens for children and teachers to supporting mobile maternity units. And we have channeled 840 million euros in financial aid. Offering safe environments to displaced Ukrainians has been also a top priority for my government. Spain hosts the fourth largest displaced community in the European Union with over 245 Ukrainians. They will soon have the Casa Ucrania at their service in the province of Alicante. But the war continues, and our support is more necessary than ever. Today, I will like to reiterate my country's support to Ukraine with two announcements. First, we will open a new office for the reconstruction of Ukraine in the capital of Spain, in Madrid, to support Spain's engagement in building a better future for all Ukrainians. It will help leverage official financial instruments, ensure institutional coordination, and enable regular visits to Ukraine by private sector actors that can prove instrumental in the reconstruction and modernization efforts. And second, in the coming months, we will convene a new meeting of the Spain-Ukraine Joint Commission in Madrid, together with the Business Forum, to enable business-to-business ties. The Spanish companies are at the forefront in areas such as health, energy, water, management, railways, infrastructure, agri-food, digitalization, and defense. Encouraging their participation in the reconstruction of Ukraine will tighten our bilateral relationship and nurture European stability and security. Dear colleagues, I would like to finish my statement with a message of hope. As in the recent UN conference in Seville, this meeting in Rome, the city of the European treaties and the Rome Statute, shows that multilateralism is not just relevant, it is indispensable. Europe has suffered the most atrocious war, or wars, but we're living proof that peace and international law are the only enduring path to stability and progress. That is why I am confident that Ukraine will write a new chapter of peace, security, and prosperity on the continent, and will ultimately complete its journey towards full membership in the European Union. Thank you very much.
We proceed with the message from His Excellency Denis Shmyhal, Prime Minister of Ukraine, joining us remotely.
Distinguished partners and colleagues, Excellencies, dear Presidents and Prime Ministers, dear heads of European institutions, esteemed leaders of international organizations and financial institutions, dear friends, dear partners, ladies and gentlemen. We have had another very difficult night today. Russia's ballistic missiles and drones killed and injured civilians, but we stand. We stand because of our defenders and because of your unwavering support. Thank you for this. Today, we gathered for the 4th Ukraine Recovery Conference, and our shared goal is to rebuild and modernize Ukraine, overcome the consequences of a devastating war, and secure prosperity for our country, for Europe, and for the entire free world. I thank all of you who have stood with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people in solidarity, side by side, through every stage of this struggle. My sincere appreciation goes to our generous host, our Italian friends, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani. Thank you. Thank you, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, for your solidarity. And thank you for your strong announcement in support of Ukraine. Grateful to President of European Parliament, Roberta Metsola, and President of European Council, Antonio Costa, for your continued support. We value the unwavering commitment of every EU member country. From the first hours of Russia's full-scale invasion, we have felt your leadership in defending the values of freedom and democracy. We are especially thankful to the United States, our strategic partner, the US President and the US Congress for bipartisan support. Together, we have overcome many challenges. Together, we will continue on the path to a just peace and successful recovery. Our gratitude goes to the leaders and people of the G7 countries. Your comprehensive support and every single initiative have made Ukraine stronger. To all our partners, our neighbors and nations from across the globe, thank you for standing with Ukraine during these difficult years. Despite the geographic distance, we are united in defending our common future. Special thanks to the international financial institutions. Thanks to your support, Ukraine has maintained financial stability and has the resources to defend itself and meet critical needs. We also recognize Ukrainian and international businesses for believing in our people, paying taxes, investing and working for our shared future. And of course, I thank the Ukrainian team, which works around the clock with our partners, quickly, effectively, and with unwavering commitment, for victory, for recovery, for growth. We all believe in the success of this ambitious reconstruction, the largest of its kind in Europe since the end of World War II. Dear partners, dear friends, this conference is a clear testament to our unwavering unity, and I am confident that this unity will remain. It must also translate into further joint actions, including continued and growing pressure on Russia to cut off the aggressor from the resources and means to wage this war. Sanctions imposed on the Russian Federation are working, but not yet enough. They must be further strengthened, especially against the energy and banking sector, the shadow fleet, and through the introduction of secondary sanctions, we continue to insist on the full confiscation of frozen Russian state assets. These resources must be used for Ukraine's recovery. It will be fair and it will be effective. Russia must pay for its crimes. It will pay in hard currency and in individual accountability before a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine. Dear friends, I am confident this gathering will be another important step toward Ukraine's successful recovery, toward global security, and toward the prosperity of the people of Europe and beyond. We are united in defense, we are united in recovery, we share common values, common goals, and a common great future. Thank you for your attention. Slava Ukraini!
We are now very pleased to welcome His Excellency Antonio Costa, President of the European Council.
Heads of states and governments, excellencies, caro Antonio, dear friends, thank you for organizing this conference and for placing Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction at the heart of the international agenda. I would like to focus on 4 pillars that must shape Ukraine's path forward: peace, defense, reconstruction, and accession to the European Union. First, peace. Dear Volodymyr, let me commend your leadership in calling for an unconditional ceasefire and mobilizing all diplomatic efforts toward a just and sustainable peace. Unfortunately, Russia has responded only with more strikes, more suffering, more unjustifiable death. This must stop. From day one, the European Union has stood and will continue to stand firmly by your side to ensure a just and lasting peace. We are doing this by increasing pressure on Russia through sanctions, by strengthening Ukraine's defense, and by deploying every diplomatic tool at our disposal to restore peace in Europe. Second, defense. Supporting Ukraine's defense is not only about military strength, it's about sovereignty and the foundation of economic recovery. Ukraine's defense sector is helping to stimulate local production, create jobs, and drive innovation, strengthening the country's economy and increasing resilience. As Ukraine rebuilds, integrating these technological advances will bolster national development and help embedded Ukraine and broader European industrial and defense value chains. This is a meaningful contribution to building the Europe of defense, a path shared by all member states. As President of the European Council, I will continue to encourage member states to increase investments in Ukraine's defense sector, including through the SAFE program, which offers concrete instruments for this effort. Third, reconstruction. Ukraine's reconstruction will require a massive sustained effort from the international community, one that matches the scale of destruction and the urgency of the moment. As Ursula already announced, Ukraine can count with the European Union. But it must also be rooted in justice. Russia must be held accountable for the devastation it has caused. The aggressor must bear responsibility for rebuilding what is sought to destroy. Reconstruction is not only about buildings, it is about people and starts at local level. Local communities, municipalities, mayors, civil society, and the media are essential actors in this process. As a former mayor, I know how powerful civil society can be in meeting immediate needs, driving community-led solutions, and advancing the reforms necessary for the European Union accession. The European Union, including our cities, regions, and citizens, stands with you, and we will continue working with the Ukrainian people for a resilient, democratic, and peaceful future. Fourth, and finally, Ukraine's accession to the European Union. Enlargement is the European Union's most strategic geopolitical investment in peace, in security, and in prosperity. For Ukraine, accession is a commitment to democratic values, to rule of law, good governance, and peaceful and stable future. At our most recent meeting, European Union leaders acknowledged the remarkable progress Ukraine has made on reforms, even under the most difficult conditions. The Commission's assessment is clear. Ukraine has fulfilled all the necessary steps to open the first cluster of accession negotiations. Negotiations must now move forward. Ukraine's accession process will continue with the next steps guided by merit, momentum, and the mutual commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, Ukraine's future lies in the European Union. The European Union stands with Ukraine for peace, for defense, for reconstruction, and all along the path of accession. Together, we can ensure that Ukraine not only recovers, but thrives, and in doing so, we will build a stronger, safer, and more united Europe. Thank you very much.
We now invite Her Excellency Maia Sandu, President of the Republic of Moldova.
Your Excellencies, colleagues, let me begin by thanking President Zelenskyy for his leadership and the Ukrainian people for their extraordinary courage. Moldova understands clearly your resistance protects not only Ukraine, but Moldova as well. We do not take that for granted. And I would like to thank Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni for co-hosting this important conference
and for keeping Ukraine's recovery firmly on the agenda. Planning for reconstruction while war still rages is not easy, but it sends a vital message. Ukraine is not only resisting, it is preparing to rebuild, to thrive. Still, we must be honest. None of this will matter unless Ukraine can defend itself now. For Ukraine's recovery to happen, Ukraine must resist. And for Ukraine to resist, it needs more and faster military support. For Moldova, this is not theoretical. Ukraine is our neighbor, our partner, and our fellow future EU member. We share a long border, 1,200 kilometers. We share infrastructure, and we share a future. When the invasion began, Moldova stepped up. We hosted refugees, now 4% of our population. We sent humanitarian aid, trained Ukrainian deminers, supported solidarity lanes, and advocated for justice for war crimes. But most importantly, we understand that our security is shared. As we approach parliamentary elections and face growing Russian interference, we cannot afford for our 1,200-kilometer border with Ukraine to become a hostile one. A strong, democratic Moldova is a reliable security partner. Our stability reinforces Ukraine's, just as Ukraine's resilience strengthens ours. Moldova will also be a practical contributor to Ukraine's recovery. We are ready to serve as a key economic and logistics corridor, especially for Ukraine's south, from Odessa and Mykolaiv to Kherson, Dnipro, and Zaporizhia. We offer geographic proximity for speed, efficiency, and sustainability, secure infrastructure and transport links, a reliable, business-friendly environment. We are expanding our Danube port, building multimodal terminals, and improving roads and railways connecting Romania, Moldova, and Ukraine. We're strengthening electricity links and cross-border gas security with both Ukraine and Romania. Moldova has also significantly enhanced its own energy security, so here too partners will find stability. To our EU partners, we say, help us fast-track the infrastructure that ties us to Ukraine and to Europe. It's an investment in our shared resilience. But let me close where I began. Ukraine's ability to rebuild depends first on its ability to defend itself. That means bold, immediate, and sustained support, military, economic, and political. Ukraine has shown the courage to fight and the vision to rebuild. Moldova stands with you consistently and unconditionally. Thank you.
We're now glad to welcome to the stage His Excellency Petr Pavel, President of the Czech Republic.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to speak to you today, representing Czechia and recognizing our shared responsibility in responding to Russia's aggressive war against Ukraine. When we speak of Ukraine today, we rightly speak of courage and admirable resilience in defense against ongoing Russian aggression. Despite hopes earlier this year that the war might move forward a resolution, the scale and intensity of the fighting have only grown over time, with an increasing number of drone and missile attacks striking cities, critical infrastructure, and civilian targets. Last night was just another evidence of Russian barbarism. Even as the war rages on, and there is definitely no time to slow down our support to Ukraine, another challenge requires our full attention, no less strategic than defense, and just as politically decisive. And that challenge is reconstruction of Ukraine. Even though peace is not yet in sight, we need to prepare for the day after. When the guns fall silent, we must already be in motion, with plans, resources, and partnerships ready to be activated. Ukraine's future will depend on whether the country becomes a place where people can see their own chances, a country worth investing in, returning to, and rebuilding. This is why reconstruction needs to support economic stabilization, modernization, and Ukraine's integration with the EU. It must help create the kind of future people choose to return to. A reference to the Marshall Plan made by Volodymyr Zelenskyy is more than symbolic. In 1947, my country was invited to join the original post-Second World War plan, and then forced by Moscow to walk away. That moment delayed our return to Europe for decades. Today, Moscow again claims the right to decide where Europe ends. But this time, that claim will not stand. Ukraine has chosen its path, and we stand with her choice. A modern Marshall Plan should reflect that choice, not just as a tool for reconstruction, but as a political commitment to Ukraine's future as part of Europe. The foundations of this effort already exist. The Ukraine Plan, the EU's EU-Ukraine facility, the impressive work of the Ukrainian government, the European Commission, and the international partners. But these are only the building blocks. What we need now is a broader, more ambitious framework, one that brings together public leadership, private capital, institutional reforms, and strategic vision. Let me outline the main pillars of such a strategy, not as an exhaustive list, but as a political architecture built on key areas we believe are essential. First, we need a broader political coalition, one that brings together the EU and its member states with democratic partners such as the United States, UK, Canada, Japan, and others. Reconstruction on this scale must be built on shared responsibility and strategic alignment. Second, it is necessary to move from fragmented coordination to real governance, with a decision-making center capable of setting priorities, managing resources, and ensuring delivery and oversight. This also means deploying a single digital platform to make all projects visible, traceable, and transparent for citizens, investors, and partners alike. Third, reconstruction must be driven by private investment. There is sufficient capital in global markets to finance Ukraine's recovery. The challenge is to unlock it. This requires strong, well-targeted incentives, concessional finances, guarantees, risk insurance, and regulatory stability, all embedded in a broader framework with ESG standards and reliable public funding. Public resources will play a catalyst role in this effort. We should consider mobilizing joint EU instruments, such as, for example, common borrowing and the use of frozen Russian sovereign assets to support the recovery efforts. Fourth, Ukraine's recovery should go hand in hand with its gradual integration into the European single market, not only as a long-term destination, but as a driver of short-term growth, reform, and investor confidence. At the same time, we must invest in Ukraine's ability to absorb and sustain this transformation. That means building institutional capacity from public procurement to local governance, and supporting human capital through education, training, and knowledge transfer. Fifth, we must match resources with capabilities, enabling countries to contribute where they bring the most value. And we must also combine Ukrainian leadership with clear accountability mechanisms to ensure that ownership and transparency go hand in hand. Finally, it is essential to commit ourselves politically and financially to support the regions that have suffered most. Because the hardest hit regions are not just scenes of destructions. They must also become centers of recovery. Let me now speak briefly about Czechia's role in our collective effort. We are not just advocating for a Marshall Plan. We are already acting, supporting recovery during the war and on the ground. Our work is focused particularly on the Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkiv regions, where we have helped restore access to clean water, strengthen decentralized energy systems, and maintain vital public services under war conditions. Just a few weeks ago, we signed a landmark trilateral partnership with Taiwan. This project will bring safe drinking water to over 380,000 people in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. It also delivers a number of cogeneration units providing electricity and heating. This model is exactly how like-minded democracies can work together where help is most needed. We are also leading efforts in healthcare reconstructions. Through the EU's Ukraine facility, 2 Czech programs have been selected under the investment pillar, one to modernize 6 hospitals across Ukraine, and another one to support investment in critical infrastructure with a particular focus on the energy sector. Since the war began, Czechia has welcomed hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians into our society. Over 53,000 children have been integrated into our elementary schools. We have trained bilingual assistants, psychologists, and teachers to help make this transition work. Over 7,000 Ukrainian students are now enrolled in Czech universities. We are working with Ukrainian partners to develop joint academic programs in key areas such as cybersecurity, energy, environment, and public finances. We also offer targeted support for teacher training and trauma care, drawing on Czech experience in mental health and post-crisis recovery. These efforts are not temporary. They are part of a lasting investment in the skills and confidence Ukraine will need to recover. To end with, I wish to reiterate that the Central Europeans know what it means to miss an opportunity, to be denied a place in the reconstruction of our own continent. This is why it is so important to make sure that Ukraine does not suffer the same fate. Ukraine's recovery is not just about rebuilding the country. It is a strategic investment in Europe's future, in our stability, and in the credibility of what we stand for. Much has already begun, but the scale of the task demands that we stay focused, stay ambitious, and move forward together. Thank you.
We are honored to now welcome His Most Eminent Highness John Timothy Dunlap, Prince and Grand Master of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to address on behalf of the Sovereign Order of Malta this most distinguished audience. We're here today at this conference, which is of utmost importance to the free and democratic world, to discuss the subject of the recovery of Ukraine. I sincerely thank Their Excellencies Prime Minister Meloni and President Zelenskyy for their kind invitation. The Sovereign Order of Malta and Ukraine established diplomatic relations back in 2008. Well before this, however, in 1990, months before Ukraine's declaration of independence in August 1991, the order founded its National Relief Corps to serve the needs of the Ukrainian people. Since then, in fact, since the very beginning of post-Soviet Ukraine, the order has been deeply rooted in the social fabric and the civil society of Ukraine. Our Relief Corps is composed of Ukrainian citizens. Time and time again, these courageous men and women overcome huge challenges and take on extremely high risks to bring relief to a suffering people. This has been especially true in the last 3 years, as the world has witnessed an escalation of the war, and with it, seemingly endless human tragedies. Soon after the outbreak of the conflict, the Order of Malta facilitated the creation of humanitarian corridors. These corridors were meant to enable the vulnerable civilian population to escape the death and destruction relentlessly bearing down on them in their villages and towns. They were the result of joint efforts on the part of the Order's Relief Corps in Ukraine, a number of the Order's Relief Corps based in neighboring countries, and in coordination with our embassy in Kiev. With the support of Malteser International, the Order has also been focused on the treatment of people who suffer from severe mental illness and psychological distress as a consequence of wartime. Make no mistake, it is women, children, the disabled, and the elderly, the most vulnerable, who suffer the most from war-related violence. Although often overlooked, this war is taking a tremendous psychological toll on the Ukrainian population. Apart from coping with physical loss of homes, the obliteration of entire towns, and the complete disruption of normal daily living patterns, the psychological trauma caused by these tragedies is frequently underestimated. Through Malteser International and the Order's other resources, we are doing our best to address this issue. We all know that the Ukrainian population is suffering immensely. We all know the consequences for Ukrainian civilians and non-military infrastructure, housing, and hospitals when they are targeted for destruction. We all know the damage that has been done and that continues to be done to people who are deliberately targeted and terrorized. And we all know that for many years to come, Ukrainians will live not only with physical disabilities, but also with deep psychological scars that will not heal easily or quickly. As I said, the dramatic traumas of war on the most vulnerable segments of the population will unfortunately have long-lasting effects. We should be prepared to make this treatment for these traumas a priority for this foreseeable future, hopefully in the context of the reconstruction of Ukraine. It is clear to us that in any given situation, there is an unbreakable link between what we are able to do on the ground and the preservation and respect for international law. Without the protective umbrella of international law, which particularly, especially the principles of rules that govern international humanitarian law, our crisis and relief work would be dangerously exposed to opponents. As such, let me make the position of the Order of Malta absolutely clear in this regard. We appealed to the provisions of international humanitarian law and declare that the deliberate targeting of civilians and relief operators, as well as the planned destruction of social services and infrastructure, are totally unacceptable. No effort should be spared to reaffirm the imperatives of international humanitarian law and the principles protecting human lives and dignity in all circumstances. In light of the above, the Order of Malta firmly believes that the conflict in Ukraine should end as soon as possible, and that the war and devastation should give way to diplomacy and negotiation. I commend the organizers for having included the human dimension in this fundamental component of this conference, and one of the cornerstones of recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. With respect to the human dimension of the war, we believe that there are several critical areas that should be of the highest priority. These are the conditions of orphans and children, the need for ensuring the best and most comprehensive treatment of those left physically disabled, and the recognition and treatment of many psychological wounds that this tragic war has caused. Bring a just end to this conflict, an end that is based on international humanitarian principles, is a priority for everyone here today. I can assure you that the Order of Malta will continue to work toward this goal of supporting international law and international humanitarian law by deploying its resources on the ground and by lifting up its voice for an international prayer for peace. Thank you very much.
We now invite His Excellency Edi Rama, Prime Minister of the Republic of Albania.